Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen Nettapak, and welcome to Tea and Magic. Every Friday, I get to invite a special guest on my show to talk about all things magical. Now, today, we're venturing into the cosmos with Deb Mack, who is a metaphysician, certified Reiki master. It's Friday, certified Reiki master. And she also serves as a certified spiritual healer, oneness blessing giver, and an ordained minister, I can't talk today, specializing in the affirmative prayer method. And what I love about you, Deb, is that I asked you, what do you want me to put on, the little title under your name? And what did you say?
Lover.
Lover.
Lover. That's what I am. I love people for a living.
Yes. And that's kind of what today's episode is all about, isn't it? It's about being from somewhere else. It's about coming here for the mission. And that mission is love, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
Before we get started, I've got to ask you what you're drinking, because I know you brought your tea, and it's a special tea that I need you to explain.
Okay, so first of all, the teacup, actually belongs to my grandmother. And so my mother has it now. So of course, this is going to be passed on to me. So this is this beautiful China teacup. It's been in my family like probably 60 years. Inside this teacup is this tea. It's Jamaican bush tea. And my mother specifically said to tell everybody what it is. She said, you must tell them that it's Starseed tea. So Starseed tea is like this bitter bush tea that we used to drink back home as kids. And it is really good for everything. It's full of antioxidants. It's good for cholesterol. It's good for like inner cleansing. It is just a very powerful tea. So I thought it was just really a beautiful testament to the women in my family to have this fragile cup with this powerful potion on the inside and to share it with you guys today.
Thank you so much for that. And you, because you are from Jamaica originally, you were not born in the States, you were born in Jamaica.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would, first of all, before I get into that, I forgot to mention your background for the people that are watching the show live. We mentioned it a minute ago on Facebook, but I absolutely love the background, and you look gorgeous today. I just said earlier that you look like a goddess in space, right? And I just feel like we're seeing so much of that energy here on Earth. So it's just fitting that you're shining with that background of home.
I'm representing my star family today.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm representing them today. Yeah. It's exciting times.
It is exciting time. I would love to start our conversation off. We are definitely going to be diving into the cosmos, but I would love to talk about, you grew up in Jamaica, and how did you come to your spirituality? You know, we all have that story where we had an awakening or something happened. It was an event, and we just kind of began to see that there was something bigger out there.
I believe maybe from childhood, Kristen, I probably had a very good sense of self and awareness. But when you grow up religiously, especially on a small island, you really don't question too many things. So I moved here, of course, in the 80s. And then about 10 years ago, this year, I got hit by a car crossing the street, walking across the street. And that accident was what made me stop and kind of assess my life and come to the realization that I was not happy. And that was the beginning of the awareness of I need to be happy. And I had gone through like 20 years straight of depression, suicidal thoughts. I mean, it was a really painful 20 years, but that accident shifted me. And that was when I decided, I don't know what it means to be happy, but I just put this expression out into the universe that I have to be happy. A year later, my life started to just unravel on its own. And I just left my marriage. I left my job for 15 years. I had a great career in aviation as a flight attendant. And I also left my religious background all at the same time. And 3 years later, I started to feel happy. And in that happiness is when I expressed this, like, if I could spend the rest of my life helping one person feel this, I will dedicate my life to that. And that night, I think my starter family showed up to let me know, here we are. And ever since then, it's been just one continuous unfolding over time. And so that was the kickoff, the accident, and then they showed up one night.
Gosh, and I'm obviously so sorry to hear about that, but I think we are all aware that the spiritual awakening happens usually through some sort of traumatic event, whether it's, something that happens in the public eye or an accident or an illness. And it just seems to be the case with most people that that's what kicks off this feeling. It's like there needs to be a moment where we say enough is enough, and it needs to be intense enough, right? And
Yeah.
what if you could take us back to that moment? I mean, you just described it, but I know that a lot of people are going through that right now in 2020. Like, this is their moment. They were maybe not given a personal moment, but they were given a global moment. A lot of people are freaking out. A lot of people are waking up. And what were your feelings during that time? You mentioned that you'd gone through a bit of depression before that. And what was like that moment that you really saw your life start changing for the better? Like, how did that really feel to you?
I think the year after I got hit was when I started to notice that I had no control over what was moving. And I think that is very similar to what's happening with the pandemic. If something happens to a lot of people and they had no control over it whatsoever. But I honestly just trusted, because I realized that the things that were being removed from my life were the very things that were contributing to the unhappiness in my life. So I just started to trust. And that's when I started to open up to a lot of spiritual things. Like, I never meditated before. And so meditation kind of started showing up. People started showing up in my life and giving me information or things to read. I just started to trust the process. It was scary at first because, I'd been married for almost like 20 years. And so it was kind of like, I don't know how to navigate this world by myself. I'm leaving a religious enclave that I'd known since I was a child. I was losing entire amounts of friends. My family stopped speaking to me for a while. They probably won't speak to me after this again. Who knows? But it's like those things that started to unfold, but I never once questioned it. It was painful. There were some very hard emotional moments, but in the back of my mind, I knew that something was unfolding for a reason. So when I got to the place where I was happy and joyful and walking around downtown Houston, swinging around the light poles and going, yeah, that was like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to feel like. So, releasing a lot of that stuff was hard, but the gains were just so immense and beautiful. And the key, I think, for everything to come full circle was to stay in love, like stay in that loving space, even though people stopped speaking to me and us going through a very contentious separation and divorce that was really intense. And I'm stepping out of a 15-year career into corporate America. That was interesting. I just stayed in a state of, I'm trusting this. And I think because my friends showed up that one night, December 11th, which is a beautiful night, I think because they showed up and they were letting me know that we see you, we know what you're doing, keep up the good work, and you're ascending. That's what they told me. It was like, okay, I'm on the right track. I think people that are waking up now will get that information. I know people are getting that information now that you're shifting, you're about to step into some abilities that you've always kind of been aware of. I believe people are going to start hearing that information and feel more comfortable stepping into it. And people like us, when we share our stories, it makes them feel more comfortable about stepping into that space and not being afraid. I'm long-winded, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, absolutely. I tell all my guests, everyone here on the show knows, I'm like, you could talk the entire hour and I cannot ask any questions and we would all be super happy. But I like to give everyone a break to sip their tea. You just provided so many nuggets of wisdom that I feel really touch upon a lot of what people either like people that myself have gone through their spiritual awakening already, people that are waking up now. And I think the biggest thing is the struggle to trust. We want to grasp onto the things that made us comfortable before, even when we know they're not working.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure that you felt your relationship wasn't working. You felt your job wasn't right. You felt this religion that you were following or something about it was just out of place in relation to how you really felt inside. And I think a lot of people try to grasp on to those things. They try to hold on to the past because when you wake up, so many things come to you, all this information, this new world, that it does feel a little confusing. And so, we're going to talk about meeting your star family in a moment here, but that process, we see you were getting downloads. I know I received a lot of downloads. The moment I woke up, I was like seeing visions of myself in war and in battle and like all these old lives and like doing magic. And it was just crazy. And I couldn't make sense of it. Even though I was aware that I was having an awakening, I was talking to my witch friends. They were telling me, look, this is what's happening to you. My ego and my mind could not make sense of it. So I love that you say trust. But if you're someone that is going through that, like as you were trusting, how did you really make sense of all the information that you were being given? And we'll talk about, you can feel free to share what information that might have been that you were getting downloaded at that time.
So much. I I believe that I have always had a very strong relationship, even aside from being a religious person, to God, source, higher spirit. So, my dad died when I was 3. And so the beautiful part of that is it was anchoring into this father figure out there, which kind of guided me all my life. So I still had that relationship on that kind of level at first, where I knew that no matter what was happening to me, I was doing the right thing because I was hearing that kind of communication. And I didn't know it was coming from within me at first, but I was hearing that you're okay. You're on the right track. Don't worry about what's happening on the outside. It has nothing to do with you. That's everyone else's stuff. But just trust this inner voice. So I believe that inner voice, which is connected to our source, is the thing that you begin to learn to trust because it wants you to have the best experience that you can have. And so that's where I believe that I just didn't worry as much because I already had that relationship that was cemented anyway. And so it just opened up even more. So the more I trusted, the more I saw that things I could trust. I could trust what was showing up, the teachers that were showing up. It was after a while, I was like, okay, that's right. Yeah, I'm supposed to know that person. Yeah, they're supposed to tell me that. I started to get more aligned with my true self. And so instead of having to manifest stuff, I just started to flow in the direction of my soul's path just by nature.
I love that. The key word there is alignment. I love what you had mentioned earlier as well about just feeling good. And I think we say that a lot on this show is that when you're going through something, you know what feels wrong. And I wouldn't even say the word wrong. In your body, when something isn't working in your life, when something is no longer resonating, when something is part of your past and needs to be let go of, it just doesn't feel good in your body anymore, right?
Right.
But when you do get information and you do get that guidance and you meet the right person, a guide, a lover, a friend, it feels so good. That alignment feels so good. And that is the sign. That's the biggest sign to knowing that you are moving in the right direction, right?
Yes, that's how I know. I know when I call it centered, when inside there are no questions. It is a stillness. It is a steadiness. I might wobble a little bit, when I'm on the freeway. But otherwise than that, it's a steadiness that I feel. But if I start to feel really twisty on the inside, and I know that I'm supposed to be feeling okay, I know there is something either in my frame of reference, my auric space, or a connection with someone else that may be a little bit disharmonious. But
Yeah.
I know what I feel like now. I know that serenity and stillness, I know it 100%. So when I don't feel that, I start to ask myself, okay, what do I need to align? Where do I need to go back to center? But that feeling is such a real feeling. And I try to, when I talk to my friends, express to them, you can trust what you're feeling. If it doesn't feel good, it is not aligned with your highest self. And that's how you know.
Absolutely. And I think this brings up a really great point that, especially as women, we are taught, I mean, we live in a world that teaches us that we have to suffer just automatically by being women. A lot of times, women will step into a martyr role where things don't feel right, but they
Mhm.
feel obligated to help other people, to
Mhm.
save other people, to heal other people, to use all of their energy up going out into the world. And we were just talking about going out into the world a minute ago, when in reality, that doesn't feel good. I mean, I know that I've gone through that as well, where I'd step out and be like, wait a minute, I need to be doing something else right now with this
Right.
energy. But that's so important for women to hear, that alignment should feel good. We all, women and men, we all should feel good at the end of the day. Now, I would love to touch base on this religious past that you have, because I think many people grew up with religious parents, or
Mhm.
parents that believed, or parents maybe that didn't believe. Like my father thought that spirituality was crap. And I think, he's kind of waking up to it a bit. But I grew up with a very anti-religious family. After my mother grew up very Catholic, my grandmother was very Catholic. And I think we all were like, yo, that is just too intense. I mean, because it was like the intense Bible
Right.
thumping, fear-based Catholicism. And so my parents decided, we're not really going to participate in that religious aspect. And so I grew up in a little bit of an atheist family. I mean, I think my mother always believed in magic, but a lot of people grew up in a religious family, such as yourself. And I would love to hear about that transition that you made, and how that belief in God, because at the root level, it is about love, it is about God. That is what that religion is based on. How was that transition from the religion to this more universal galactic spirituality? And what beliefs stayed with you, and what did you have to let go of?
I will answer the last question first.
Yes, I
I
know I
had
throw
to,
so many questions at you.
no, but that's the one, that's the most important one, because I had to let go of the fear
Yeah.
of what I was taught when I was growing up. You read the Bible and you have all these different, rules and regulations. And I'm saying that they're not good and they can't be useful, but it definitely will incite fear in people. You're taught to have a fear of God. Well, a fear of God is going to keep you separated from God.
Mm.
So I had to lose and I didn't really have a fear, but I had to lose that thinking a little bit. But I grew up, um, my entire family are Jehovah's Witnesses. I think there's probably one or two of us are a little bit on the different side of things now. And so um, it's a very enclosed group, and you must believe what they tell you, and only what they tell you, and everything else is wrong. Well, what they didn't know, that little Debbie from growing up was looking around at everything within and outside of it, and questioning it the whole time, because I couldn't understand why, if I can feel people on the outside and they feel good, why are they bad people? So I got a lot of exposure. I actually had left before, when I was much younger, in my late teens, and went out into the world, experienced some things, and went back to it and locked myself into that for a solid 20 years. And it was making me actually a little bit loopy in the head.
Mm.
But the transition actually came at a realization of someone that I love very much, when I was calling and saying how I was feeling this discord with my spirit and being in it. And I just felt like I was expanding out of it. And this wonderful, amazing person said, maybe you don't need that much control. And the light bulb went off. And that was what took me out of it, because the instant I heard it, I said, that's what it is. My mind needs to expand. And so I just left with a blaze, girl. It was pretty funny. I blazed out. I scared everybody. I was talking about everything just openly on my blog. And it was pretty crazy for about a good year and a half. People were really scared of me, but I just knew that I needed to expand beyond it. I had learned what I needed to learn. Thank you very much. It's time to move on to other things. And so that transition, while everybody else was freaking out, I wasn't. I totally let go like that of everything else that was creating fear. I was taught not to talk to people who call themselves witches. Whatever.
I'm glad you changed your mind on that one.
Okay. Because I was fascinated. Like, I'm fascinated by these people. I want to know more about them. I was told not to talk to psychics. And I'm like, my teacher's a psychic. She's the most beautiful human being on the planet. So I completely jumped 100% into this experience, just saying, I want to learn because I love people. I love everybody. I don't care what people think about me loving people. So that transition for me, even though it hurt with my family a little bit, I was fine. I was ready for the next step of learning. So the transition was easy for me. It really was.
I love that. I think, with my transition, I think with a lot of other people's, I felt the same way. Is almost when I woke up, it's like I just knew this just felt right. And it's all of these things, all of the gifts came online, just like that. I mean, it wasn't even, I wouldn't even call it a transition. It was like a blink of an eye. And all of a sudden, everything came. Right. And then it was like, wait, I just remembered who I was. And it took me a little time to make sense. But I think it took me even more time to try to talk to the people around me who at that moment were not aligned with me in my relationships and whatnot. So they didn't understand. And I found myself, I think I just posted this on the event page. It was like an alien talking to a woman saying, this is what it's like for me to try to explain things to people that don't understand. But that doesn't matter because everyone's on their own journey. But the important thing is we know. And I think that's so important for people to hear is when you get that wisdom, when you get those downloads, when you wake up and all of a sudden you just know a whole bunch of stuff that you're like, it should have taken a normal person 20 years to learn how to do this. But just like that, I have these gifts. That's okay. That's actually the process. And I would love to hear what gifts came online for you.
The ones that I had from childhood, they just became more full blown. I was a child that would hear things at night that nobody else would, and it would scare my mother a lot. And so I stopped talking about it because I could see the fright when I would say, oh, I heard the door open and slam last night, or someone walking in the hall, or a traumatic experience where I screamed so loudly I woke the whole house up. So I learned to shut down on those, to shut my sight off, because I'm sure I could see as a child, but my hearing and my senses were always acute. So once I started to meditate, especially, that is where I really started to open up, and I can hear, like I can hear spirit. It's like an impression. That's what I tell people. Sometimes it's a voice that says a word, not like tells me things to do, but it gives me instruction. But the clear audience is very pronounced because it's like oh, okay. Or if I want to know something that's important for my growth, or if I want to even know where something is in the house because I haven't seen it in a box somewhere, I'll just get really still. I'm like, okay, guys, where is this and this and whatever? Oh, thank you. And I'll go look for it, and it's right exactly there. So that I can hear. Now the sensing, oh, that is really acute also, because not only do I feel aurically, I feel internally. So I feel people's pain like as if it's mine. I feel heart issues like it's mine, headaches like it's mine. And I had to really learn. I have a great teacher, Molly Ford, who really taught me how to identify me and not me. Because I was going all over the place with like, why do I feel this way? And it's like I had to learn to sit and feel in my body where my body is doing its thing or where I'm picking up somebody else's body doing their thing. So that oneness, that connection that we have, it's very, very real. And I think a lot of people might not be aware that a lot of times when their mood just shifts sometimes, that it's really not them. They're picking up something from someone else. But the training and the meditation and the stillness kind of helps with that, to hone in you, like how do I feel? And to be able to identify you or not you. So those, I think those two, I know stuff. I know a lot of stuff, but I don't tell a lot of people unless they ask. Like people have asked me, you know, are you going to do readings? And I'm, no, because you're going to be upset with me because I know stuff. So no, unless it's important for your life, you know, I'll just say, and it'll come out. I get a lot of dreams. I get a lot of dreams about other people and what they're going through. And it usually takes me a while before I want to express what I've seen, but I find a way to put it in a certain context so the person doesn't like have a complete mind explosion. They can like accept it and go, oh, and 2 weeks later, like, oh, you know that thing you told me? I said, yeah. So it's dreams, hearing, sensing. I probably do have sight. And I made the agreement that if they're going to bring my sight back online, please do it gently. Because I don't know if I'm really prepared to see everything that's out there. But yeah, those are the abilities that kind of came to the surface once I started to settle down and clear out.
I'm the same way. Everything that you just said is exactly what my life is like. I mean, I'm like, oh, is she me? I mean, we are one, but literally she's me. I know how you feel. There's so many times during the day where I'm having conversations with seemingly no one, and I'm talking to my guides and I'm like, okay, you need to help me with this. And I pause and exactly what you were saying. And then boom, the message is there. I do that when I'm writing as well. And in a similar fashion, I did tell my spirit team, I said, look, I'm not ready to see things. Like that's going to freak me out a little bit. Like I do see things in journeys and I see things in dreams, but look, I don't want to be sitting in my house and all of a sudden see like an entourage of souls sitting there. But there are people that can, and it can get a little crazy. And I'm the same as you. I do take very select clients. I kind of wait for them to come to me, or I feel that they're ready to hear information. But I would say I just flat out, I mean, I have some of my clients on the show right now watching, and I just flat out, I'm like, okay, here's what you're meant to do. Here's your soul family. Good luck. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but I feel that you are going to understand this either right now, you're waiting for this information, or eventually. And I just leave it at that. Yeah, so I want to talk about the soul family. Let's dive into that. You said that during that awakening experience that you met your soul family, and I would love to get the story of what happened.
Well, that is a story I have not told publicly until today.
Oh, I'm so
if any of my friends are listening, hi. Okay, so that night that I was really happy, I'm going to tell it in a really short frame of time. I put that expression out that I wanted to help one person, because that was just my limitation. Like I can have one person, fell asleep after meditation, woke up to the sensation of someone pulling me out of my bed and telling me to come. And I fought two spirits for a good few minutes until they convinced me to leave my house. And they took me on a drive, and I asked them where they were taking me, and they said, to Satan. And I said, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're taking me home because that's not my purpose, and I know this. So when they brought me back to my house, and I stepped back into the foyer, and I looked up, there were 3 beings at the top of my stairs, beautiful chakra colors. I didn't know what that was at the time. And they were just waiting there for me. And that's when I realized, I said, oh, I know what this is. This is in response to what I said. Thank you, but please don't scare me like this ever again. And so I actually had to get some help to decipher that whole night because I was out of my body for like 7 hours. And this beautiful lady by the name of Margot, she was the one that told me, she was, oh, that's your soul family, your star family. They are literally in my space right now, and they are just jumping up for joy because you have finally woken up. And they, through her, they pretty much told me, because I couldn't really hear them clearly then, that they told me what I was going to be doing, which is this. And everything I had to do to kind of start clearing and to release and to let go, they would show up many times very gently, because I was a very, very rebellious person that was waking up. I wanted to do it my way. They were like, okay. And then they go away for a while. Then they come back when I was like, I'm sorry. So they would tell me things. They would tell me, okay, so now we're going to teach you how to transmute energy. This is what you're learning to do now. And I would start doing it. I have had incidents where I would ask for clarity, like, please clear my ears up because I can't hear. And Kristen, I would go into meditation and I would come to the awareness lucidly that there is a device on my head. And this device is cleaning me out with lasers in my third eye. And I'm trying to raise my hand to feel this thing because I know there is a device there. So I know that my soul family, and we're going to touch on this later, it's a planetary thing. It's an advanced group of beings, and they're here right now in the room with me. Very advanced family. And, we're going to talk about the choices that we made, the agreements that we made a little bit later, but oh, wow, they're really happy right now that I'm doing this because they know I won't talk about it.
And I'm like tearing up right now.
Sorry,
because
I'm sorry.
No, I said the same thing before that we started, right? I said, I feel like I have talked to certain people about what I am, being a starseed and who I am, even though it's been years since I've known this information. But I felt like today was like a coming out party. I said, okay, this is now going on the internet. Everyone's going to know. And here we are. And I really, truly, Deb, feel that both our families had a conversation and said, it's time for them to have this talk. And so I'm so grateful that you're here today, because you are not only telling your friends who you are, I am able to tell my people who I am, and we're doing this together. And I think that is such an important thing to remember, that we are never alone. Not only do we have our families, but we do have other souls on this planet who are from, whether or not we're from the same planet or not, but when we're here on Earth, we're here for the same mission. And that mission is, I would love to know, in your words, what that mission is that your soul family told you, like, this is why you're here. And maybe it's something you're still navigating, but I think
I believe I'm believing, especially in this year in particular, I'm going to get the full download of what it is, because I can feel it coming. It's definitely to support the consciousness that is trying to rise in this particular region of the universe. I know that's what it is. It has to be what it is, because I would not just willingly say I wanted to come hang out on the planet based on how certain events have emotionally broken me to be here. Someone were to ask me, well, how do you know you're not from here? I said, I just know. I used to be very confused for a very long time about how people interacted with each other, the things that they would do, the hurtful things that they would do. That used to really bother me. Or observing people doing things and wondering, don't they know that that's not going to work? And not understanding why they didn't know that. Not fitting in with a group of people. As a Black woman, I tend to go everywhere, which is very uniquely different for some people. So I know that I'm not here to fit in. I'm here to be connected to everyone. I think I like to say it as I am not attached to anyone, but I'm connected to everyone, because there is a big difference with that. I do know that I've had experiences that are very interplanetary. And I'll give you an example. The last racial turbulence from a couple of years ago really had an adverse effect on my spirit. It was a complete and utter emotional shutdown, to the point where I was literally saying out loud, you have got to come and get me out. You've got to come and get me out. I can't do this. It's too hard. I can't do this. And I remember falling asleep and coming to the awareness of multiple bodies. It's like taking me out, and with the urgency of, we have to get her out now. We have to get her out now. And they took me out for a while, somewhere where I could recuperate, restore myself, play, see the rest of my soul family, learn some things. So I've had experiences that are honestly not from Earth. I'm interacting with, and I can hear them at a distance, and I can hear craft that is in our atmosphere sometimes. I sometimes can get glimpses of them. I know when they're here. I get the sensation that they're here. Many different experiences of traveling in something. And it's not scary. It's something that's normal to me. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. So, talking about it is not something that I do openly. And I know, you just mentioned that, because it's strange even for you when you're in the world where everyone's not having that experience. So you don't tend to, express it. But I'm glad we are, because I know there are other people that are having those experiences too.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things is when you go through this experience and you wake up and you realize this is who and what I am, that you do feel like not only do a lot of things make sense, but the not fitting in makes sense. I mean, we see those memes everywhere. When you don't feel like you fit into a world, it means you're here to create a different world. And I mean, I don't know what y'all believe, but for me, I know that I am part of a volunteer mission. I think many of us came here as volunteers by choice. We were asked to come here because we are training to be ascended masters, or we are ascended masters, and we have been here for so many lifetimes, or maybe we've never been here. So we have a completely different perspective, but we're ascended masters that were asked to volunteer to come to Earth to help raise the frequency and to hold love. And if any of you have ever heard of Dolores Cannon, I don't know if you have, she wrote that amazing bit about the 3 waves. And I believe many of us right now are in the 2nd wave, the older generations, the 1st wave, and it's the waves of volunteers that came here to help the planet raise and to help human consciousness. And so when you're living a life where that is your purpose, it is really difficult to have a day job, to go on a date. I mean, I've met guys and I'm like, okay, so when are we going to have this conversation? And I just don't even try to add it anymore. I mean, immediately someone's like, what? I'm like, okay, we're done. But it is difficult to have a quote unquote normal life, even though we are all souls having a human experience. And this doesn't make anyone special or more special or better than, like, that's not the conversation. But I believe that the angels and the starseeds and the light workers, like we especially, are given access to so much information about who we are and why we're here, that it kind of makes it impossible to just go on with your everyday life and not be constantly thinking about this mission, right?
Yes. And see, that is how I know that there is a mission, because I'm having this conversation with you.
Yes.
That is how I know. And I also have conversations with other people who will say stuff, we're just visiting, right? And I'm like, yes, we're just visiting. So there's an awareness that's growing, and conversations like this are so important, because if we don't talk about it, then the people that are also on the mission won't step up into the mission. But
Yes.
I'll just tell them this. When you step up into the mission, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. It's hard to express it, to live at the state of openness where all you're doing is transmuting this energy out in the world. That means you're an open vessel and it's coming through you and it makes you feel so amazing. That is why we have to express it, because we know how it will help so many people, because people want to feel this way.
Mm-hmm. And I will add to that because this is a show about magic. This is a group about magic. And I've probably said this on every episode, but if people see the word magic and I think they have this immediate um, relation to like old magic. And there is that as well, like witchcraft. But for me, my magic really is exactly what you just said. It is the process of clearing out anything that is blocking that channeling flow. It's clearing out the trauma, the past lives, the things that aren't working for you, the thoughts, the patterns, the beliefs. All of that shit's got to go. And the reason why the spiritual awakening feels so painful is because we're just getting rid of all of that crud and that conditioning so that we can, like you said, become vessels for a higher vibration that we can in turn bring onto this planet. And I believe that is the mission.
That's the mission. That's the mission. Yeah, I could go through life and not say a single thing ever again, and I know that, and just walk amongst human beings and just radiate, and it will work. I know I can do that, but I like to talk, so there, I just add that to everything else. But that is, and it's just, to me, just from talking to you, it's such a beautiful mission. Even on the days when it's real, Earth is hard, because I've heard that message, like Earth is hard. Even those days when Earth is hard, I still am walking around with this joy in my heart, because I know that I am choosing and creating the intention everywhere I go to bring this energy with me, to go into rooms and just kind of like vibrate, or to be there, really there for someone, really love someone unconditionally with no expectation, and just watch the transformation of that person. Like, wait, what is this? And I'm like, it's love. It's love. Yeah. So I'm grateful for you. I'm really grateful for you, because you just shine this light, and your magic is amazing. And I just love that our soul family, we're finding each other, we're connecting. And by connecting, we're amplifying. We're amplifying the mission.
Oh, amplifying. I love that. I do feel that a few years ago, many of us were almost hermited off from, especially the last few years, just to gain our own sense of power, our own sense of self. I feel that way, even though we were all in tribes, I very much felt alone. And now this year, I love that you mentioned that 2020, that many of us were living still in the old paradigm of like, okay, well, now I know that I'm on a mission, so I got to do stuff. And like, how did you, I don't know if you had that experience, but I went through an entire year of like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I gotta start a business, and I gotta do this, and then it took me so long to get back to that notion of no, I literally just have to be radiant and be love, and that's it. And anything else we choose is an expression of our choice of how we want to experience this life thing. Yeah. So did you have that experience where you started a whole bunch of stuff?
The ego kicks in, it's like, oh, that's what I'm here to do. I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna start a TV show. I'm gonna do this. And I'm like, that doesn't feel good. It just hit me one day. That doesn't feel good. And let me just sit back. And that's when I went to this like inner silence, the hermiting thing you call that we were saying earlier, that inner silence. And that's when I could feel myself going into the state of beingness, like, oh, okay, yeah, I can't do that. That's too much. But that's just part of, I think, the ego that we've picked up while we've been here. And sometimes we see other people doing it, because that was my thing. I saw other people doing this and thinking, oh, I should be doing that too. to lend to the, this unified voice of raising the consciousness, it's just about walking around with a big grin on my face and just like
Absolutely.
being Debbie, just being Debbie. And that does it. That does it all on its own. So yeah, I think a lot of people do that. A lot of my friends who are in spiritual communities, they actually did bring it down.
Yeah.
Bring it down a whole lot to where they're just so quiet now, but they're just radiating that frequency wherever they go.
I had a woman once tell me, I was had a reading with her and I was chatting with her on video, and she said, look, when you walk into a room and someone looks into your eyes, you trigger their healing process. When you're around other people and they feel your vibe, they feel that love. That's all you have to do. And even though I truly believe that that's where we're starting, this 2020 is about learning who we really are and being able to be present and pause. However, I will say this, and it might not be for everyone, but I do feel that we are all going to move into positions where we are seen and heard more to access more human beings. I mean, it seems that light workers and starseeds and angels are spread out all over the world. We all seem to be in our own little pocket somewhere. We're always talking virtually. Every time I meet somebody, I was like, why are you virtual? You could never be my neighbor, right?
Yeah.
It's always someone that I'm talking to online. But I do feel that many of us are, like you had mentioned earlier, going to spend this year finding out more information, getting more information about the mission. And it will be a balance between stepping out and doing whatever we're guided to do. To me, that's write books. It could be something to somebody else. And then coming back in to recoup, and then stepping out and coming back in. And I see people going in waves, like you might step out while I'm back here and vice versa. And that's how we're all aligning and playing as a team.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know if you feel that coming. I know we mentioned earlier, you said, I don't know, I just don't feel like stepping out. And then in my mind, my psychic mind, I was like, oh yeah, she's going to be called too soon. She's just doing a little resistance thing right now.
Yeah. I've been very quiet, and I've had a lot of people actually approach me and say, okay, go. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet. And I'm like, wait, I'm not ready yet. But this year, I knew before 2020, like towards the end of 2019, I knew that 2020 was going to be a major year for me as far as stepping into that space because I'm more comfortable. The pandemic shoved me into it. It was like, now you need to talk. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I feel more prepared because I have a teacher mentality. So you have to prepare to teach the subject. So I feel more prepared to express things that will really help people make that shift, because you can tell people things, but then you can really like express it in a way of, these are the steps that you take to expand. This is the fundamentals. How it unfolds for you might be a little bit different, but there are fundamental steps that you can take. So I know I'm stepping into more of a teaching environment. I have been moved into a certain kind of academia, secular work, which I'm looking at it thinking, I know why I'm here. I know what I'm here to glean from this. Okay, I thank you. Thank you guys. So it's more about teaching, and I can definitely tell you that there will be a workshop sometime soon, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go away. Like, okay, I've done my work for now.
That's how I am. I'm like, I'm going to have published this book, and I'm going to vanish until the next book comes out.
Until the next part of the assignment unfolds. That's how I feel. It's like, okay, so everyone can, I feel, do their part in the waves that are coming, because they're waves that are coming of change, So I think each person's going to step into the wave, ride the wave with, with people, and then come back out. And I think that's beautiful, because it's not all going to be right on your head.
Yeah, it
you know?
really is. It can't all happen at once, or these human bodies would just die. I mean, that's the whole thing, is the spiritual awakening takes, you wake up pretty fast, but then it takes it such a long time to
Time.
really adapt as you in this body. And then you start clearing the body and clearing the mind, and that process is huge. And then you step into a teaching role and you're figuring out what you're doing. And really, I mean, it's the lifelong process. It's why we're here, and it's going to take the entire span of our lives to complete, because otherwise, if we rushed in, we would just shut down. There would be
Yeah.
too much at
Too
once.
much. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
I
my
did a lot of
gosh.
healing work. Yeah, I did a lot of healing work, a lot of healing work. And
Yeah.
not that I had a lot to heal, because it didn't feel like my life, except for the 20 years of insanity. But when that clearing started, I could feel it. I could feel like the change in my own, just my body changed, you
Yeah.
know, because I was carrying so much weight of the 20 years. And so that's the one thing I always try and impress on people, to do whatever it takes to get the healing process started. I've been in therapy, you know, whatever, if it means going to a therapist and releasing some of the things that people are carrying, and they're carrying so much stuff. They're carrying so much stuff, you know, and so if you can start internally releasing and doing forgiveness work, you know, and loving yourself, that opens up this portal, that it opens up, and then you can catalyze that light inside of you, and then it just starts to trickle out. And I have friends who've done it in 3 years, and it took
Mm-hmm.
me 7. And
Wow. Yeah.
I would just tell them, like, okay, here's what I did. And they would start working their way through it, and lickety split, they are literally clear. And I'm thinking, there's a lot more energy out there. So, and I tell people, there's
Yeah.
a lot more energy out there now than there
Mm.
was 10 years ago. So if you even just are willing to be willing to be willing, that energy will start to come to you, and it will start to work this magic, all within your auric field, inside and out, and you will start to clear. And once you start to taste that true joy, true, oh, that yumminess of spirit, once you start to taste that, you're going to get attached to it, and you're going to keep opening up to it. And it just gets better. Life becomes a miracle, really.
It really does. And like you said earlier, this mission, I mean, I'm going to have a smile on my face for the rest of the day every time I really tap into that. I'm so happy. And I'm almost a little jealous of the new wave, because, this isn't one of those, I've got to talk about my pain. But, my awakening process, again, I woke up in like 2012, and it was 8 years of dealing with it. And it felt
Mhm.
like muck so many times. It felt like I was sludging through
Mhm.
tar. And
Yeah.
in comparison to back then, now when something comes through that I have to clear, I mean, I joke with my friends about it. We joke about this all the time. It could be 5 minutes. It could be within 24 hours,
Yes.
it's always clear, but it
Clear.
literally could be a few minutes, and I just tap in and it's like, woo, gone.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I love that you are recommending and inspiring people to tap into this energy, because there are people that are just waking up, and they are, it's like, wow, how do I really deal with all of this stuff that's happened in my life? But
Mhm.
just surrendering to the process and trusting and letting go. We each of us, humans, no matter who or what you are, come here with a team of spirit
Yes.
helpers.
Mhm.
And if you don't believe in that, I'm sorry, but it's true.
True.
We each have a team of spirit helpers. And by the way, if we want to talk about God, we are all part of that universal
Right.
system. Our spirit helpers are, they're here to help guide us to that awakening through the other side, and so that we can all be light beings that are here sharing that love and light. So just, I love to encourage people, just trust that you have a whole team of people you can't see
Yes.
helping you,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And I think it's just that the religious mindset might still be, a lot of people are afraid of stepping into that truth, that I tell them, you are an expression of God. and the totality of it. Within you, that thing that's creating that animation in you, that's it. So if you were just to go in at night and just get really quiet and start talking to the innermost part of your being and start telling it the truth or start expressing what it is you need, your life will unfold in ways that you could have never believed before it started. There is a powerful force within you. And you, I tell people all the time, you are not the sum of your mistakes or your flaws, that they do not exist. You are a beautiful being of light, an expression of something immensely divine and powerful and beautiful. And all that's happened to you is that you have in your life experiences picked up energies of certain experiences, and they're now on top of all of that beauty that's within you. That's what I tell people. And honestly, when you start to tell yourself the truth about, no, I'm an expression of God, I am love, and you just keep telling your truth to yourself, it starts to change and transmute every single thing, every single energetic experience that you've had that is sitting on top of the connection. Because some people would say, oh, we're disconnected from God. No, you're not. You're always connected to that. You just have something that is on top of it or something that's interwoven in it that just needs to be pulled apart. And then you can feel that spark within you and have that communication constantly, that guidance constantly. That is the mission, to help people to remember what they really are, amazing beings of light.
I love that. And in addition to that, because I sent you this video that I believe I posted on the page as well, I love what this gentleman said, and I apologize, I can't remember his name, but it is in the video, that as light workers and star seeds and angel seeds and whoever is here on this volunteer mission, we were asked to go through the human experience, even though a lot of times many of us were like done with the human life or had never been here. We still had to come. So a lot of those traumas are ancestral traumas,
Yes.
or they're family traumas that we're clearing for other people. But we were asked to go through very specific things so that we could understand the human experience enough to turn around and help other people, because the mission is to be light, but also to be teachers, to help other people through to the other side. But we couldn't understand that process unless we went through it ourselves. And I think that's really important, that when we're talking about clearing that muck, people do try to hold on to that and identify themselves with the pain, with the trauma, with the past, when in reality, we can identify with the mission, that look, that's part of the mission. I had to step through, if you run a race, you've got to run the race before you make it to the finish line. You've got to, get your muscles running and you panting until you almost throw up. And then you get to the finish line. You're like, okay, I won. Horrible analogy, you guys, but still, I mean, that really sums up a lot of this conversation too, is that I love everything that you were saying just about clearing that out, because at the base, you are this being of light. And that is what you were born here with. That is what you came here to be. And everything else is just crap laying on top.
Eons of it. And that's why our work is important, because we're completely shifting a whole system. And I think there are a lot more light workers, starseeds, angels. I think there's so many more that this particular experience this year, 2020 vision, I think that's what it's for. I really feel like we are helping to bring that knowledge and awareness and memory back. Like, yeah, that's what you are. Step into it. This is why we had to go through it for 10 years. So it's like, you can please step into it, because it's opening up a whole new earth, so it's an ongoing wave. But now, I mean, even just talking to you, I'm even more excited. I'm probably going to run around outside after this and like loving on people. You know, it's just when you sit and you talk to people who are doing what their soul is wants to do without any kind of prompting, it definitely makes this whole experience something to embrace even more. You know, and I really hope that your viewers are hearing our call, because that's really what we're doing by telling our stories. So thank you for allowing me to share my weirdo-ness with everyone else. But
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, for me having you. Thank you so much. That's what I feel like. Thank you for having me.
Our guides are having us.
But I think what I was feeling is like, thank you for letting me witness your story. Thank you for, I'm going to get teary again, you guys. Thank you for, you said earlier, thank you for having me on your show, Kristen. And now I feel, thank you for choosing to be on my show. Thank you for choosing me and this group to share your story with for the first time. So many people are hearing it. That is such an honor, Deb. That is such an intensely amazing honor for you to come on here and say, okay, this is the moment that I'm really going to spill everything.
Spill it. Yes.
And I so appreciate you allowing me to hold space for that. We could talk for hours. I know we're at the end of time. So I just want to ask you, is there a last bit of wisdom, piece of advice for either humans, starseeds, whomever, that you would like to share?
So I am a student of the Course in Miracles. And one of my favorite all-time conscious, amazing human being is Marianne Williamson. So I know you guys are probably familiar with, because I can't see anything, Return to Love.
I love her.
I just wanted to share, and I think if I can't find it, because I had marked it earlier, my little thing fell out, but it's the quote that she talks about where she says, "Who are you not to be magnificent? Who are you not to be magnificent? Why would you not be magnificent?" You know, it's like you are afraid of your light. And so that's the thing I want to share with everyone as we're leaving today, because I know I was afraid of shining, because it's like, I don't want to do that. But shining is so important for the world. So if I could say one thing, is to please step into your magnificence. Step 100% into it. You will always be guided. You will always have yourself surrounded by whole myriads of teams that are waiting for you, wanting to do this work and supporting you. So please, everyone, step into your magnificence.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you 1,000 times. Thank you. I'm going to be like cheering, but also like bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I am so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for you and your light, and for you coming on this show and shining for everyone to see. We've got so many people just on the board loving it and just sending hearts of love because they're seeing your light. And I think that you're inspiring so many people to step into theirs and to be an inspiration as you are. I am going to post your links and your bio here in the group. If you guys are watching this after on our YouTube page, I hope you enjoyed this incredible episode. I'm going to be posting all of our information there. And if you want to join us at any time live, we do this every single Friday in our Facebook group. The link is going to be below. And we just have these incredible, conscious, beautiful, magical conversations. And again, Deb, thank you so much for being here. I love you. I adore you.
Thank you for having me.
Can't wait to
all that you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.